Well, welcome back. We planned on doing updates weekly starting in July, since that represented the point where production would peak. Moving into August, well, since the weather gets warmer, then the solar panels wind up not running as efficient as they do in the peak month of June and July. So we were really hoping to get everything rolling in July. Well, since that didn't happen, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do weekly updates anyway. We'll call them Prologue, and we'll keep doing those until we wind up getting the system fully installed, and then obviously then we'll start the energy sovereignty project itself. So wow. Thank you so much for all of your responses to our previous video. It was a great way to kick it off. Very surprising. Again, a lot of that, I suppose, was in the title. So again, first, let me thank all those who have commented and subscribed to the first update video. The comments are a great way to help me format how we set up the subsequent updates. What that will allow me to do is to see what subjects interest everybody, and then those can then be incorporated into the weekly updates. Because the weekly updates, they're just going to be just that. It's going to be maybe 5 minutes or so of bringing everybody up to speed on what the production was like that week, how much driving was able to be done off of nothing but sunlight, and then a quick go over the numbers that we had. So that should take maybe 5 or 8 minutes or so, and so that'll leave us maybe, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes to start talking about some of the things that interest you. So looking over those replies, it's a fantastic way to try and figure out what we're going to talk about next. I can't promise that I'll be able to respond to every comment, especially once things start to really take off. But I do promise to look through them all to get an idea of what interests everybody. So if the Q&A format seems to be something that people enjoy, then maybe we'll actually start doing, I have a live 360-degree camera, and maybe I'll invite you to come and have an absinthe with me and discuss what's on your mind live. That might be a fun thing to do. We've got a lot to cover here, so let's go ahead and get moving on it. There were quite a few comments saying that we should just wait out the install. Tesla will get to us when they get to us, and on the surface of that, it's fine. That's actually appropriate, especially when you start to think about what Tesla is actually doing in the background. They've got the Model 3 to get out. They've been helping out Puerto Rico and trying to wander through that mess. That's a whole discussion in and of itself. I'm fairly familiar with all of the nuances that they're struggling with as far as how much federal aid that they're getting for Puerto Rico. But again, that's a whole different topic. So if it were just Tesla calling us up on the phone saying, hey, or sending us an email saying, hey, we've got all this other stuff going, we got the Model 3 going, we've got Australia installs, we've got Puerto Rico, please bear with us. Man, that would be fine. And no problem whatsoever doing that. I'm not here foot stomping, ranting and raving, as some have suggested. What prompted the video was a email from Brady Radovich. He's a gentleman from Tesla Energy that's been kind of our liaison on the Tesla side through our installer is Sunworks. And so Brett Odell, our project manager at Sunworks, has been working with Brady back and forth about the shipment of the power walls. Well, Brady had said something really kind of cryptic in one of his emails. He said in the email that The guidance provided to you by Brett Odell regarding the current limit of 4 Powerwalls per gateway, that's the device that communicates with Tesla and with the system. Regarding the current limit of 4 Powerwalls per gateway is still accurate. Okay, well, that kind of threw Brett Odell under the bus. He was basically as stunned as any of us were, because Brett, obviously his assumption is that Tesla is going to deliver on the invoice that we have, which is for 6. So because of that email, it left us in this weird kind of a limbo spot where we didn't even know how many Powerwalls Tesla was going to deliver to us. Now, at all. I mean, not just, you know, from what we ordered, right? So that was really discouraging, because again, this is a product that we had already prepaid our invoice through Sunworks. And so it's really kind of an interesting wording that they chose, and a strange way to deal with a paying customer, to be honest. And so that, more than just the waiting, was what prompted that previous email and the title. Some felt that it was kind of clickbaity, and that maybe it was not as accurate as it could have been, and I agree. I agree that it was a bit clickbaity. I think that's one of the reasons that we worded it that way, was because we wanted it to be attention grabbing, and it was. It got your attention. It got us talking about the situation. So we're still a little confused about what Mr. Radovich means by guidance. My guidance is that we gave him an invoice for 6 Powerwalls. Of that invoice, they've actually delivered 2 of them to Sunworks. Well, that makes it even a little more confusing as far as why would they do that? Why would they send 2? If the invoice is for 6, wouldn't they just hold it until you had 6 to send? Are they thinking that we're going to install 2 and then install another 2 and another 2? I have an automatic change order that's designed to kick in when the batteries get there, and so then Sunworks was really helped us out by agreeing to that automatic change order. So basically what they do is they installed all of the solar and the inverter, and all the stuff that's on the wall right now is temporary. Sunworks agreed to come back, yank all that stuff out, and put in a higher power bidirectional inverter that would work with with all of the system when they knew what everything was going to look like, because again, there's still a lot of unknowns. Tesla Energy still has to work with Sunworks in order to mesh the system and actually bring it to its full form. So that's a little strange. I actually suggested to Sunworks that they not pay Tesla for the 2 batteries that they ordered, because the order wasn't fulfilled, and maybe that'll be what's needed to kick this loose. I don't know. But Tesla knows that we want 6 batteries. We expect 6 batteries. We paid for 6 batteries. If we have to wait because they can't make production, that's great. Tell us that, but don't hide behind words like guidance and then not tell us what that means as far as our orders. It's very frustrating. So now let's move on to some fun things instead. So some of the other comments, folks were curious about, well, why do we need all that? Why do we need all that capacity? Well, I suppose the short answer is that we don't know. We're running off of calculations that I made about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, that related to how the system handles the transitional period in the year. Basically, the system is going to have 3 modalities. It's going to have a summer modality, a transitional season modality, and a winter modality. And the best way to kind of explain how that works is to bring up a couple of graphs. And so These charts are from the proof of concept system that we have here at the studio. We don't use as much power as I felt we should to really stress a system. And so we didn't install the batteries here. We didn't plan to install the batteries here. Instead, we were installing them in a slightly larger home, slightly larger usage. And so because of that, this chart is not as applicable to the energy sovereignty project as it could be, and as the charts that we will show you going forward will be. But it's a good way to get things started up here. So this will give you an idea on what's going on. So the first chart that we're pulling up, it's from the month of March, which does a pretty good job of representing that transitional period. In February, March, the same thing occurs in September, October, early November. Where you get this situation here where we are, in near the Sacramento area, where the system will experience several days where it's fine, it'll meet or exceed your daily needs, and then you'll hit several days where it'll come close, or maybe it won't meet your needs. And so the chart that you see here, if you take a look at it, if you only have one or two power walls, then what winds up happening is that on day 7 and then again on days 18 and 19, you'll see that you won't make it, and you'll wind up drawing some power from the grid. And the Energy Sovereignty Project, adding that additional capacity, allows the system to operate at a higher state of charge during this transitional period. And the result of that is that you no longer get a daily smoothing of your duct curve. You wind up with a weekly smoothing of that curve. You've got your solar system providing supplemental power, and when you wind up hitting those those few days that you don't make it, then it allows you to get past those lulls. And so, if we had 6 batteries, obviously, then we wouldn't draw at all during that period. And so the next one that we'll pull up here, this next one is for midwinter, late October to February, thereabouts. And so now you'll start to see power outputs like this, where you have a few days where you meet your needs, but for the most part, you're not. So now, in situations like this, the system would actually run at full charge. We'll make a determination as far as which month we start to charge the system fully. So if you can imagine that the system had fully charged itself on the 1st. So now we see that we have some supplemental production on days 2, 3, and 4 that allow us to get to the days where we meet our daily use, maybe exceed them a little. I just put on just maybe a little bit, because again, this is from a 7 kilowatt system. The system that we have installed at the Energy Sovereignty Project home, that's running a little over 10, so roughly 10, because the roof's shaped a little crazy. But so in the case of the Energy Sovereignty Project home, if we're fully charged on the 1st, then we'll easily make it past that hump and be able to hit those days in the 5th and 6th and 7th where we actually make or exceed a little bit our production. And then we start to get into that next period where we have several days that we don't quite match it. And so by looking at this, I'm thinking that we probably wind up charging on the 15th and maybe again on the 25th. So you'd wind up having a grand total of 60 kilowatts actually pulled from the grid for the entire month of December. I'm sorry, November. That's in midwinter. So again, this represents a time of the year where the system would, in the middle of the night, fully charge itself, to try and get as many days using supplemental solar power as it could to stretch that on out and consume as little power as possible. So that's a winter modality. And finally, this last chart here that I'm pulling up, this shows a summer modality. Whew, okay, so in summer, there are 0 days where we don't make it. Now, again, there might be the odd cloudy day that'll come in where, you know, maybe you don't make it by, you know, 5 kilowatts or something like that. So you do need a little bit in reserve to try and, you know, maybe get you over that hump. But at this time of the year, the entire system can relax. And so then you bring the entire system down to a summer modality where you're running at half charge, maybe a little below 40 kilowatts, 45, 50 if you want to be really safe about it. And the reason that you hold it at 50 and not 15 or 20 is, remember, the car, right? So this will allow you 30 kilowatts, 100 miles, roughly, of free driving all summer long on sunlight at a time when your batteries aren't even fully charged that are running the home. And again, hopefully that will allow us to extend the battery life, all that. We won't know that for some time, but in the first year we'll be able to maybe get a handle on how many cycles, because those are things I'm assuming that Tesla will actually be able to record and feed back to us. We'll see. But that's the kind of information that we're hoping to provide through this. And so that's going to be a real interesting thing to examine as we move forward. So that's about it. You know, I think for the comments that I saw on the previous video, I think that covers some of the major questions that were brought up. And so we'll cut the video off here so it doesn't run too long. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shift my response to comments from the previous video that we had to this one. And so for folks that are watching this, go ahead and comment on this one. If there's information that you want to see covered in the next video, if you still have questions regarding the previous video, please feel free to comment. I'll do my best to go over them. I can do that better at this point than I'll be able to do it as we move into the future. As we go into the future, I expect that there's probably going to be quite an interest in this as it builds, and so I'll probably have to scan the comments and do a bit of a broader response, pooling the comments that are made into subjects that I'll then address on future videos. And again, I'll try and respond to as many questions as I can, because it seems to be working. That seems to be a great way to achieve and maintain interest in what we're doing. So I hope you found that interesting as always, and keep watching, keep the comments coming. Very helpful stuff. There's a lot of folks that are following this that they have a lot to contribute. There are folks that have either done this type of a solution before. They currently have solutions. There's a lot of suggestions for a do-it-yourself approach. Those guys are fantastic. I love seeing the videos of the guys that have deconstructed the Tesla power packs for the vehicles, and great stuff. Moving forward, though, it is important to realize that the reason that we chose the power walls and the reason that we were considering things like the Mercedes battery is that the general consumer isn't going to do a DIY approach. They're just not. They're going to look for a more plug-and-play solution to all of this. And so we'd like to present that if at all possible, and that was why we went with the power walls. Again, not to pimp the power wall, but we do believe that the power wall and its HMI, its human-machine interface, the way that the consumer will interact with the system is pretty indicative of how these systems will be integrated in the homes in the future. And so because of that, we thought it was important to make that a part of what we critique and make sure that we tell both sides. What do we like about that type of an interface? What don't we? What would we like to see? What would we like to have more control over? Because what I've seen so far, Tesla, through its app, tends to limit the amount of control that you have, because I think that the system is designed to control the batteries that you have connected to it as a whole, as a unit. So individually, internally, they keep track of things like how many times has a specific Powerwall in the bank charged and discharged and that kind of thing. So till next time, please comment. Feel free to like and subscribe if this is something that you're interested in, and we'll bring these to you once a week. We'll do Prologue updates until we actually get the Powerwalls installed. We'll do a little installation video when that happens, and see you next week.